Well, Blackberry Maker Research in Motion has written to some of its customers, assuring them that any unauthorized access to confidential corporate data will not be possible. Earlier, Blackberry had agreed to monitor customer data as per the government's security norms. So as Blackberry walks the tightrope between customer loyalty and security obligations, the question that we are asking is Blackberry right in its claim that it cannot allow monitoring of these services? Joining us now is noted cyber laws expert Pawan Dugal and also cyber security expert Ankit Fadia. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So, Ankit, let me begin with you before we come to the legal point. Let me read the statement that Blackberry has made. It says that the Blackberry security architecture for enterprise customers is based on a symmetric key system where the customer creates their own key and only the customer ever possesses a copy of their encryption key. RIM, that's the company, does not possess a master key, nor does any backdoor exist in the system that will allow RIM or any third party to gain unauthorized access to the key or the data. So in effect, the company is saying that we cannot do anything about it even if we want to. How do you read this?
I think that's absolutely correct. The whole encryption algorithm is built in such a way that it prevents spoofing, it prevents man-in-the-middle attacks, and it prevents unauthorized access to the data being communicated. So yes, BlackBerry is correct in what they are saying. But having said that, if they really wanted to allow governments to monitor all communication, they could technically change the encryption algorithms and change the security architecture that they're using to enable the communication. But the big problem with that is that it will also allow terrorists or the malicious computer criminals to be able to spy upon maybe the corporate communication that's going on, your emails, your BlackBerry Messenger, and so on. So it just opens up a huge security risk for everybody.
Right. So, Pawan, let's come to you. What's the legal standpoint? So we've understood the technology or the technical approach to this, were there to be one. Where do we stand legally?
I think effective 27th of October 2009, there has been coming into effect the amendments to the Indian cyber law. Now these amendments have given sweeping powers to the government to intercept, monitor, and to go ahead and do any kind of activities for surveillance, all in the interest of national security sovereignty. Well, to the extent that the sovereignty and security of our country is paramount, there's no two questions about it. But given the kind of sweeping powers, I see the current step just the first chapter in the book. I think as and when the government start getting more information, they will start demanding more and more given their kind of a sovereign rights. And I think the beginning of the debate will be, well, where will the privacy of the corporate customers and the data privacy going to begin and where it's going to end? So I think we are trying to open up a Pandora's box. National security, no question, paramount. But somewhere down the line, you have to take and respect of all kinds of civil liberties of general lay users and corporate citizens as well.
Right. Let me take that point further, Ankit. As Pawan's just saying, you know, this is really an invasion of privacy of the common man. Is there even any point in the government trying to get access to these codes when you're saying that it's so impossible they won't be actually able to track terrorist activities because of all these encryption codes?
I think what the big problem over here is that do corporate users, BlackBerry users really want government to be monitoring everything that they're doing, even whether it's technically possible or not? The whole question of invasion of privacy kind of comes to the forefront, and the point is, where is this all going to end? And if I were a terrorist and if I really wanted to, you know, commit a crime, communicate something secretly, even if BlackBerry allows all the spying to go on, the fact of the matter is that there are encryption algorithms available that terrorists can continue to use, and there's no way for governments or for BlackBerry or for anybody else to be able to decipher the encrypted communication. For example, there's a very interesting technique known as steganography, wherein I could take a picture, take a message, hide that message inside a picture, or maybe hide that message inside a PDF file, Word document, PowerPoint presentation, and then email it out to my terrorist colleagues. So if the government is watching, the BlackBerry or RIM is watching, or whether the cyber terrorists are watching, there's no way for them to actually communicate figure out what's going on.
Right. So, okay, let's come back to the legal standpoint, Pawan, and I'll read again. It says, you know, RIM says it would be simply, RIM would simply be unable to accommodate any request for a copy of a customer's encryption key, the one we referred to earlier. At no time does RIM or any wireless network operator even possess a copy of the key. So while, I mean, RIM has obviously put up its hands and we've said so, but so is therefore RIM now liable to create the entire infrastructure, whatever that may be, to ensure that it can find the information or the data that a government may want to look for?
Absolutely, there's no questions about it. If you look at the Indian Cyber Law, the IT Act is very clear. If you're offering your services that are available on communication devices and computer systems or networks that are physically located in India, you will be covered by the IT Act. And if that be the case, well, you will have to comply. The government is not really bothered. How do you want to comply? How do you actually go about its modalities? If you do not comply, there are both civil and penal consequences. The penal consequences could actually be invoked in terms of imprisonment up to 3 years and fine up to 500,000 rupees. Apart from that, technically damages by way of compensation up to 50 million Indian rupees could also be asked. So I think if the government really wants it, it has all the kind of a deterrent mechanisms in place in the law to arm twist any kind of a vendor or a service provider to provide the information. But I think I have a fundamental problem.
Right. That's just it actually. Is there no way that the government can actually come out with, specific suspects that it's looking at? Why do they actually have to go in for this kind of blanket, blanket check? Because that is, as you said, a violation of the Constitution in a sense.
I think that's where the basic problem is. After the 26/11 attacks, India has possibly gone in the same scenario as the US in terms of just pushing the panic button and coming up with such overarching and sweeping kind of powers. I think we need to be very clear. If you have suspicion on anybody, you find somebody as a suspect, go ahead, monitor, do everything. But under that garb, please do not trample upon the civil liberties, the right of privacy, both personal privacy and data privacy of individuals per se. And I think what we are now beginning to see is going to be the beginning of a very dangerous trend, because that's going to empower the governments with a lot of information that it does not really require. That's not merely relevant for the sovereignty and integrity of India, but that could be potentially misused, because you don't know how this data is going to be used in the government circles, on government servers and on government computers, most of them whom are not really very secure.
Right, Ankit, a layman's question. We all use Gmail and Hotmail and Yahoo Mail and so on. I mean, a lot of the data, actually perhaps much more information and data travels on those networks. How do we look at that? I mean, is that something that should be also of concern, or is BlackBerry a specific issue here?
No, usually with these web-based email service providers like Gmail, Yahoo and Hotmail, already the government works very closely with the ISPs in India, and they do regular monitoring. But the bigger question here is that even if BlackBerry agrees to change the encryption algorithms that they're using, you see there's a certain amount of trust that is associated with BlackBerry. And if I am a corporate user, I wouldn't want to continue to use BlackBerry if I know that it is possible for a criminal to decrypt my data, or the government to decrypt my data, or even BlackBerry to decrypt my data. And there's absolutely no end to it. And I see actually no sense in being able to monitor all BlackBerry messages, because think about it, there are billions of email messages being sent, whether it be on BlackBerry or on non-BlackBerry platforms, and technically it's almost impossible to come out to develop a very accurate system to detect any anti-India or terrorism related messages being transmitted.
Right, Ankit and Pawan, thank you so much for joining us. And I can totally endorse the billions of messages. I mean, I get a few hundred every day, and I'm sure Abba does as well.
Yeah, as a user, I'm kind of worried, Govind.
Thank you so much.
Well, it has been a big day for BlackBerry. Makers of the popular smartphone are also going to be unveiling a new touchscreen phone as it aims to take on rivals like Google's Android and Apple's iPhone. Here's a report from Bloomberg's John Ellickman.
The media were all waiting to go in, and it's not usual that you see these kind of lines associated with a RIM event. It's usually Apple which has the splash events. But today, Research in Motion looking to take a page out of Apple's book with a product that very much resembles an iPhone. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype about Research in Motion's plan to come out with a new product. They already had one that was kind of like a touchscreen, first introduced a couple of years ago, the Storm, but it was not well received. So certainly we're going to see what the reaction is to the device that hits the streets today and the new operating system from Research in Motion. And can it make a dent in Apple's sales? And there's another part of this story too. That's the AT&T side. We are expecting AT&T to be the partner on this new phone. Remember, their exclusive deal with the iPhone coming to an end soon, so they've got to look for ways to diversify, teaming up with Research in Motion, one of the ways they're looking at. We'll bring you some more updates as the day unfolds.